Hi, my name is Lindy Jung. I am a soon-to-be traditionally published science fiction and fantasy author. My debut novel comes out fall 2026 from Bloomsbury US and Delray UK. I think I'm getting used to saying that. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever fully be used to it. It also kind of feels made up sometimes when I do say it, but we're getting used to saying it. We're owning it. It is currently Friday, May 2nd, and it has been probably like a month and a half, if not more, since I last seriously wrote. So I gave my edits for Moth's Blood, my debut, back to my editor back in March 31st, and since then I have fallen off in the biggest way possible, and I'm super disappointed in myself because, one, I was doing a daily sprints challenge and I have not added to that significantly in any way at all in the past month and some change. Two, I was really hoping to use this time in between developmental edits for Moth's Blood to work on Project Crypts, my adult gothic fantasy that I have been really excited about. Like, it's such a cool world. I'm having a ton of fun with the characters and all their messiness. They are so messy. And the magic and the story itself, like, this was a project that, to me, as I was planning it out, I was like, this is going to be a no-brainer to draft. I will draft this in the quickest amount of time possible. The outline came together so seamlessly, the characters were strong-ish. I'm kind of fighting with the protagonist right now, but it should have been easy, right? To at least pull together a first draft to work off of. I think I maybe had about like 20,000, 25,000 words at one point for the first draft of Project Crypts, and now we're back down to square one. Like, I have to basically start from scratch. It has been a huge roadblock for me on top of other roadblocks, and I've been feeling a lot of pressure and just a lot of stressors from different areas of my life, and all of this has heavily contributed to my burnout in terms of writing. So debut pressure is real. I'm not even debuting until next year, and late next year at that, but I already feel this pressure to kind of like keep the ball rolling, make sure that I always have a project on deck, something to pitch, something to sell once I'm able to do so with the option terms in my contract. I feel like just having that awareness that there are outside factors weighing in on my productivity as a writer has been tremendously harmful to my well-being as a creative. So that was one thing. Another thing is that I felt so much pressure to make this book not only good, because ideally I want everything I write to be good, whatever that means, you know, subjective metric. I want everything I write to be something I am proud to have others read. I specifically was feeling pressure to make this book, Project Crypts, better than Moth's Blood. I had to show improvement in some way, right? And I was just running into walls because, again, good and better are completely subjective. No idea how I was trying to measure that or gauge that, especially with a book that right now is just an outline and isn't even a partial draft. So those were just contributing to my block on Project Crypts. But on top of that, of course, I have grad school, I have a part-time job, I'm a full-time student teacher, and then I had a health scare. This was a couple weeks ago. I was fine, to clarify, but I did end up going to the ER because my non-professional opinion is I was having like a stress-related health event. Again, I'm fine, no lasting impact, but it was scary, and it made me have to like reorganize my priorities, and I realized that right now grad school and student teaching should be my priorities, and so YouTube and writing kind of like fell to the side. At the same time, because I'm in this position where, yes, I'm not quite published yet, but I do consider myself a professional writer, I do feel this push to keep writing, to keep producing written works. So I've been kind of like dabbling in nonfiction personal essays. I have a travel blog called Where the Hell Am I? And I've put a couple of articles up there recently after not touching it since 2023. Like, I've been writing still, but I just haven't been writing the thing I'm supposed to be writing. So there's this combination of stressors and pressure and also feeling pretty disconnected from Project Crypts that have accumulated in me not being the most productive in terms of my novel. And I don't want that. And although I'm not quite out of the woods yet in terms of just my pure workload and how much I have to handle and deal with in a given day, I'm also doing like the job hunt right now, which has not been fun. Let me tell you that. Regardless, over the past week or so, I've really been itching to get back into writing. These characters and the story and the world of Project Crypts, they haven't really left my mind this whole time, and again, this past week, that little chunk of time, they've really been occupying my thoughts. I can always tell when I'm excited about a project, either for the first time or again when I think about it on my drives. I am expecting to start my next round of edits on Moth's Blood in a couple weeks, so no, I'm probably not going to finish the first draft of Crypts this spring. But I do want to use the little bits of time that I do have to reconnect with the project, put some serious work into it, even if it's not just increasing the word count. And it is the weekend, so I had a little bit of a weird short day at school today, so I have the rest of the afternoon until like 4-ish when I'm going to see a movie with my partner. But I do have a good chunk of time today to write, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. I will also be writing for most of tomorrow. Mix of writing and like free time activities, and then hopefully I can squeeze in a writing session on Sunday, although I do work. So this will be a shorter vlog because it'll just be the weekend. I'm finally ready to reconnect with Project Crips, and I'm so excited to bring you guys along. This is going to be a fun couple days, and that is my priority. It's not to hit a word count goal or to hit any other sort of like arbitrary metric for progress or success, but to have fun with the story, reconnect with the characters. Even if I don't write a word in the actual draft and I just outline and move things around, I'll be happy. So that's what we're gonna do. It's currently around 2 o'clock, so I'm going to squeeze in maybe like an hour of writing. Let's do that. Hi, so I'm all set up and ready to write. I was thinking about changing outfits, but this was like part of my professional look for today. I had a cardigan / peacoat over it because I had to look professional today as well as cute, and of course no outfit is complete without a little bit of jewelry. So I wanted to talk really briefly about Ana Luisa, who provided these pieces and were kind enough to work with me on today's video. I feel like as I've gotten older and I guess more sophisticated in some ways, I've really been drawn to jewelry and especially to adding high quality pieces of jewelry to my collection. But of course, I don't have endless amounts of money to spend thousands of dollars on necklaces, and that is where Ana Luisa comes into play. Their affordable jewelry options do not sacrifice quality for their price point, and all of their pieces are long-lasting, hypoallergenic, water-resistant, and sustainably made, which is a 4 for 4 in my opinion. On top of all of that, they have a range of gorgeous styles to choose from. I'm personally a gold girly. I feel like this is well documented, but they also have a bunch of silver options for all of my cool toned friends, or not cool toned. Maybe you just like silver, and that's fine too. So today I am wearing the pebble necklace, which I am pretty sure, 99% sure is named that because of this pebble-shaped pendant. I'm also wearing the Toda earrings, which are these double loop, and it has a gold loop and a gem-encrusted loop as well. I've been getting so many compliments on these. I love them so much. If you're in the market for some new jewelry and you aren't willing to break the bank, but also aren't willing to sacrifice quality, then go ahead and check out Ana Luisa. The link to their website is in the description box below. Thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. Alright, so I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk on this walking pad for maybe 30 minutes. So I'll do 30 minutes of walking and writing and 30 minutes of sitting and writing, and hopefully that'll give me a good balance. Right now, it's not going to be so much like type, but more so looking over what I've got so far and going over some of the notes that I've made as I've been thinking about the story and its configuration and the characters. Some pieces have shifted and some pieces have changed shape. So I have to figure out how all of that is going to slot together. And in about 2 hours, that's I think when we're gonna head out to the movies. So maybe I will use all that time on writing and writing related activities. If not, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna just stop yapping and go ahead and get started. Let's get into it. So I'm locked out of Track Bear, I think permanently, because I don't think I had a recovery email. I can't really update my progress there in terms of sprints, but I just did a 30-minute sprint. I was pretty focused the entire time. I was just kind of like organizing my thoughts and kind of putting everything down in a concrete matter, because right now it's a mush in my brain, and although I don't really outline super precisely in these early stages, I did want to slap down like a basic overview of each chapter, as well as a detailed outline on each character. So I have a document called Crips Final Outline, and I have a tab for characters and one for chapters. And for my character bios, I'm just doing like half a page on each major player. So that's probably going to be the main character, Alessia, and all of the members of House Monmouth, which is like the household of noble necromancers that she kind of worms her way into. I have their age, their abilities because of the magic system. They're all necromancers of some fashion, mostly, not all. And then like a brief biography that's about 3 to 4 paragraphs. Came up with a lot of backstory for these characters in the past couple weeks, just from brainstorming and daydreaming and thinking about them as people and how they were shaped by their respective pasts. And I think that's really evident in the biographies I've come up with them and the things I've written out. Like, I can really sort of see the connective tissue between Alicia's past and the way that she is now, which is, whew, she has some issues. However, right now I do want to actually write, so I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. I was walking pretty slow, so I only walked like 3,000 steps. I kind of want to walk more than that, but I can't draft and walk at the same time. So I'm gonna take a break, probably just move over to the other office and actually look over what I've got in my current draft one of Crips and see what I can do, what I can write. And yeah, that's going to be the next half hour. I'm running some sprints in the Storytellers Society Discord today, which is run by CK Jensen, who is absolutely wonderful. So I'm gonna start that. I had to throw on a jacket because it is so cold in here. For why? It's May. I just finished up, oh, I should update my sprint tracker, but I have an hour under my belt now, half an hour of like the sort of outlining character bio stuff, and now half an hour of going through my first chapter. I swear I've looked at the first 1,300 words of this book, and I know it's 1,300 words because there's a specific scene break that I always end up at. I swear I've looked over it like 40 times. Pretty much every time I start writing, I end up reading this section again, and I like it every time, but I think the rest of this chapter is going to need some structural changes, which is what I'm looking into now. I did get a little bit distracted in the second one because I checked Instagram, which I never do, and I found a comment from a couple days ago and I felt so bad for responding so late. It was a comment on my post about the Cli-Fi story that I had through Grist. This is a piece called We Cast Our Eyes to the Unknowable Now, and it is a short Cli-Fi story that I wrote with like my students in mind, honestly, and it was one of the 9 finalists for Grist's annual Cli-Fi competition, and it was published earlier this year through them as well. But this comment was saying that they had analyzed the piece with their 9th grade class for part of their Cli-Fi unit, which is so fun. If you are an English teacher by any long shot, please teach like niche little genre units, and especially Cli-Fi. But it was just so cool and so like rewarding to hear that real students were getting to read the piece and think about it and analyze it, especially because it's a piece about the actions that students and communities and like basically kids, young people can take for their climate, for their community. And it just meant a lot to me, like that really touched me. So I got completely sidetracked by that for a little bit. Probably the coolest comment I've ever gotten. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Small update, camera's dying, so I gotta wrap this up quick, and we're probably gonna go and see the movie soon. So I'm gonna take a breather before we do that. All right. Bye. Good morning. It's Saturday. I woke up at 7 and I got out of bed at 7:30, and I feel like I still ended up wasting so much of the morning. It's around 10:30 now. I was kind of like cleaning and, you know, getting dressed and stuff. Made myself a quick breakfast, and now I'm just kind of waiting. I still, of course, want to get some writing done this morning. I'm thinking if the weather holds, it's really gloomy and gray outside, but it's not raining like it was or has been the past couple days. But if the weather holds, I'm probably gonna go out for a little forage. It's something I try to do every Saturday now. Every one day off that I have. For now, I think I'm going to try and dive in for like a 30-minute session with Crips, again with the draft or the outline, kind of depends on where my heart takes me. In terms of how I'm feeling about the story, I just feel like I've been in this early stage for such a long time with this book, and I just can't quite break out of it into the actual like, all right, we're consistently putting words into the draft, moving on to the next act, the story is unraveling, and I would really like to figure out what is drawing me back to reworking the opening again and again. I am very much a writer where like, if that foundation of the first couple chapters, or even the first chapter, isn't perfect, I cannot build off that. Like, I can't keep writing until what I have already is at least like 80% there. Like, I have to feel good about it. It's odd because I feel very good about my prose. I think my prose in this book is different from Maud's. I'm trying to replicate this more like antiquated feel, but the writing style in this book definitely is meant to reflect or be a little bit evocative of that antiquated Gothic novel feel, like that very rich prose style, or at least that's what I'm trying for. Not sure if I'm accomplishing it, whereas Maud's was a little bit more modern. So I feel like the voice and prose I've got down, but I've gone back and forth again and again on whether or not to write this in first or third. I've switched the first chapter between the two a couple times, and I think I like first better. So I'm trying to like tell myself that I don't need to figure that out. I would like to, because it would just give me a little bit more stability in terms of what I'm moving forward on, what I'm putting on the page. The other thing is that's not the only issue. I'm just having some trouble setting up the scenes in order. I think as you write out an outline, right? You write down each beat or scene that happens, or the events of each chapter within that little bullet point as it expands into the actual narration, the actual story. It's just so different, and there's so many things that you cannot account for, at least I can't, until you're writing that scene out. Of course, that's like a thing that I'm going to run into, and I have run into a million times, but for some reason it's just giving me a lot of trouble right now. So I'm trying to decide how detailed I want to make my outline. Because again, I am someone, and I think this is relatively common, I just cannot fully predict what direction a scene will take until I'm writing it. I cannot really predict what's going to happen in the outline stage, if that makes sense. I can give myself a bare bones outline, I know what beats I need to hit, but sometimes the characters just, their arc and the way they're developing organically, which I do like to have organic character development, and this feeling that as I'm writing, they're growing as well. I feel like that translates well into strong character arc for readers. Of course, that throws a lot of things into flux in terms of outlines, and it makes it difficult to draft off an outline. I always end up planting books, basically. Like, I always have a plot point outline, and then I just end up swerving all over the place. Anyway, I'm going to do a 30-minute session real quick, and then probably take out the trash, and then hopefully cafe or lunch. We'll see what happens. I'll figure it out. For now, 30-minute writing session. Let's go. Currently about 4 o'clock, and I just ran like 3 sprints in a row. I did 2 complete 30-minute sprints and one another half-hour sprint, so it was like an hour and 15. And hopefully I'll be able to revisit, but there's just some stuff going on. I did not end up going to the cafe today. You guys saw me writing outside though, so I did get a little bit of fresh air. And now, you know, it's just the errands have been a lot today. Instead of just talking about the logistics, I think I've kind of figured out where I'm getting stuck, and it's that the image that I have of this book is not of the beginning, but of the middle and the end. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of skip ahead and put a pin in the beginning for now, and just kind of write through the middle and the end, which in my head are very structured and a linear narrative, and like it should work, right? And then hopefully once those things are more formed, I can go back and really build up the beginning to be something compelling that leads naturally into the events of basically the second and third act. And it could very well be like something to do with maybe I'm starting the story in the wrong place. I don't think I am. I think I'm starting it where it needs to start, with this main character in like a new environment and her having to figure out the mechanisms of the setting and these people before we get into all of the drama and everything that happens. But I like that idea. I haven't started it yet. This kind of came to me just now after my most recent sprint. So hopefully after dinner I can get right back into that. But all in all, I feel like it hasn't been the worst day for writing. Definitely, it feels like I'm getting back into it after a long time off, which is kind of what's happened. You know, it's not the most productive or creatively inspired day I've ever had, but I'm thinking about the story, I'm coming up with plans, fleshing out that chapter by chapter outline that I'm going to use as a reference point. I may come back with another update today, depending on how things go with the rest of my day. Otherwise, I will update and close out tomorrow or maybe Monday. Yeah, I mean, not the worst, not the best, but feeling like I'm slowly, you know, stepping back into things, dipping my toes back into the pool that is this story. And I think it'll be a good, like, follow-up to Moth's Blood. So anyway, all that aside, yeah, I'll update you guys later. Good morning. Currently Sunday. It's around 9 o'clock. I woke up at 8, got ready for the day, and now I'm just making breakfast. But I have to head out at maybe like 10:50 to get to work today, so I have a good 2 hours to crush. So I am going to get some writing done. Yesterday was actually really nice. My partner and I went out to dinner, and I was able to like bounce ideas off him. Okay, she wants to be on camera too. Lou, you're taking the focus? Okay. While we were like waiting to get seated, I was able to like talk through my issues with Crips a little bit, and I brought my notebook actually because I knew we'd have a wait. This place always has a wait. I was like writing down my notes as we were talking and brainstorming, and I think I have an idea of what I'm going to do in that second act. So today, right now pretty much, I'm going to start in that second act and start just writing and see where it takes me. Another way I was trying to organize my thoughts, because my issue right now is I have an idea of the overall trajectory of the characters in the plot. I have an idea of what beats need to happen. I'm just having trouble sorting out the beginning part in terms of what beats need to happen when, like what sequence they happen in. So I was like, this is actually a situation in which Save the Cat and the Save the Cat beat sheet, I do not outline books based off of this beat sheet, and I do not outline them using like 3-act structure, and I do not typically look at like the finer points of 3-act structure, anything like that. But in this case, it was pretty helpful in terms of just sorting out what needs to happen when, in terms of like that build up as we ascend into that second act, as we move toward the climax of the story. I really encourage that, especially if you're more experienced, that you use these kind of as loose guidelines rather than hard and fast rules like these plot structures. But in this case, it was super helpful to kind of just take a step back and look at it from a more clinical perspective and try to apply my scenes to these beats and see where they fit in terms of a more traditional story structure. I don't think this story will necessarily fit that, because basically there's too many conflicts going on at the same time. It's a web of conflicts rather than a one-to-one. It's making it a lot more difficult to plot, but I think it'll be fun. And my partner liked the idea. It was his first time hearing the overall trajectory of the story. So, you know, that was validating. We are going to eat breakfast and then write a bit. Bye. Hi, end of Sunday update. This was like my worst day at work in a while. I've not been loving my part-time job lately, just because like the work itself is fine, but the amount of energy it takes out of me and just the way it steals a whole day out of my weekend, so that I only really get one day off, and that one day is usually spent working. I've talked about this a million times. I'm not going to go through the spiel again, but my God, I was not feeling my job today. Sorry, I'm getting ready for bed because it's a bit late. But I did make it through, and the school year's almost over, so there is that. Even though I didn't really get to write this evening either, I got home pretty late actually, because I had to be at work longer than I thought I would be. So whenever I get home tomorrow, I'll try to do at least an hour of writing. I am feeling the momentum for Project Crips, which was more so the purpose of this vlog than anything else. So I am feeling kind of like not necessarily invigorated, because I'm still tired. I don't think anything is going to change that until, you know, I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to change for a little while, if I'm being honest, but I feel more stable in terms of like what direction I need to do, what things I need to do to make this draft a reality. If we're setting goals, I think before my edit for Moth's Blood comes back, it's sometime mid-May. I have to double check the exact date. So I have about 2 weeks, more or less, give or take. I would really like to maybe add like 10,000 words to this draft. my ambitious pie in the sky goal would be to get back to that 25,000 word like high point that I had. Thank you for bearing with me through this vlog. One more session, one more day, and then I'll close this out. Happen again. I filmed the outro for a condensed weekend vlog several days after the fact. It's currently Wednesday, and that's okay because honestly I'm glad I had a couple extra days to reflect, especially considering the theme of this video and the theme of my writing life. But before I get into that, what's been going on these past couple days outside of the usual cycle of like work and school and all that stuff? I have been writing. I mean, it's definitely less than I would like it to be, and it's probably not a speed that I want to maintain if I want to finish Project Crips this year. I've been tinkering away at my Word doc pretty much every day when I get a moment here and there. To me, this signifies less so, you know, increasing the word count and moving toward a finish line, and more so a desire to write. A motivation that I haven't had for a long time, that like intrinsic motivation to actually dive into a story, spend time with the characters, spend time in the world, rather than that extrinsic motivation that traditional publishing provides that honestly will only take you so far. And I do want to talk about motivation a little bit because I think, and I contribute to this, I think there is sort of an energy with writing spaces in general, online and in person. No one is free from this because all of us are subject to capitalism. Capitalism is the antithesis of art in a lot of ways. Not to go too deep into my rant or stand on my soapbox for too long, but yeah, we live in a system where we have to earn money to live, and so a lot of us focus on and are motivated by these extrinsic factors, this possibility of making money, and that bleeds into writing. And I'm not saying that you have to not think that way. I certainly do. I'm motivated by having a career to a certain degree. I'm motivated also by having readership. These are all extrinsic motivators, but I also think that that intrinsic motivation, that desire to actually write for writing's sake and for that creative outlet, that used to be more important to me than it is currently, and I want it to be the most important thing again. Interrogating why we write. What drives us to write, especially those of us who are using the space online, not just an AuthorTube, but any online writing space, where you are subject or you are exposed to a lot of people's different paths, their different creative trajectories, and where the overwhelming message seems to be like aim for publishing, either traditional or indie or self-publishing, and aim to put that book out there, aim to make money off of your writing, isn't inherently negative, and I don't blame anyone for having that mindset because, again, we live in a system. If those voices get too loud, which they have been for me, if those extrinsic motivations start to outweigh the intrinsic motivations, where I'm so concerned about the market and readership, basically anything other than my own relationship with the art and what I'm trying to say and put onto the page. Yeah, stepping off my soapbox, I don't think I'm writing literature that's going to change the fabric of society, but I write stuff that I like and that I find meaning in. Figuring out what that means to me, what that looks like as I grow as a person and as I keep imbuing little bits of myself into my work. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Very existential. And I think this also kind of ties into the fact that every day I realize more and more that I love my day job. I find it so fulfilling, so rewarding, and teaching isn't traditionally a job, at least in the US, that makes very much money at all. I knew that going into this career, obviously, because all anyone ever talks about is how little money teachers make, but it's still fulfilling, and it's fulfilling enough that I can kind of like that, at least for now, I don't mind so much that I'm not making as much money. And I want to feel that way about writing. I don't want to have to worry about selling enough to earn out my advance and make royalties. I just don't want to care about that stuff as much as I do. It's still important. It shouldn't occupy as much space in my mind as it does. It really should not. Because it's not good for me. I can feel it eroding my desire to write, to be creative. I want to feel about writing the way I do about teaching. That's the end of it. Anyway, other updates. I finished an outline, a chapter by chapter outline for Crips. I think this is my most complete one yet, and I'm really excited about it, actually. It makes sense in my head, the pacing works out. There's obviously some things that'll be subject to change as I actually draft, but I think it works. I think the story really works, and I just had to write it down for like the 4th time to see that. I mean, yeah, I've just been daydreaming up more backstory story, world building details. I don't know if I'll have space for all of them in the actual manuscript, but I'm excited for it. I mean, at the end of the day, right now I'm still overwhelmed and busy. This Friday, I'm finished with at least the semester, and moving forward, I can only hope and pray that I'm not as busy as I've been this past semester, because I've had so many periods of my life where I've been stretched so thin, been so busy, been worked to the bone. Something about the semester, like, destroyed me. I'm alive, I think, and I'm ready to write. I think I'm going into this upcoming break from school with a really good mindset and with a sense of motivation. Honestly, there have been times where I've gone into a break and I've just turned into a potato that first week or couple weeks. This past winter break was an example where after fall semester, I was just so burnt out that we had like a 4 or 5 week winter break, and did I do anything? I sold moths right before I went on break. I was like, I'm not doing anything. And I took that time off, and I don't think I did anything. But this time, I am feeling motivated. I'm ready to write, and I'm ready to write seriously. That is the end of this video. Thank you for bearing with me. I know it's been kind of an unfocused one because honestly, it's been an unfocused couple months for me, if I'm being so for real. I've had no idea what I've been doing. I've been having fun up until I figured out that I had to pour most of my energy into student teaching. I was just all over the place, and I still feel bad about it, but we're wrapping up, ending on a good note. I will see you guys very soon for some actual well thought out, well planned out, motivated, full of writing videos, instead of this one where I just kind of reflected and complained about being busy. If you don't mind the occasional messy video and you like writing content and you want to hear about someone's traditional publishing journey, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.